Next question is from Ron Barnes. This is a really interesting. The water profile sounds more like a hazy profile, but I have found I really enjoy a more chloride to sulfate ratio in most beers. I've never tried that in a West Coast style IPA. What's your preference on chloride to sulfate ratios in West Coast IPAs? Do you know what most West Coast brewers are doing these days on their ratios? So this is in relation to the fantastic conversation that I had with Bill Gerds, head of brewing operations from Linwood Brewing Concern outside of Raleigh, North Carolina. You're going to want to go back and check out that interview. That interview is coming out in clips right now, but if you want to get the totality, you really should. We had a good time in there. We had a lot of laughs. Listen to it as treat it like a podcast. Throw it on as you're driving in the car and listen to that, or when you're running. There's some great stuff because Bill's a really talented brewer, and we just have fun together. So in that video, Bill talks about how even in their West Coast beers, they just really push chloride. And I am in the same boat too. There's really only a beer like if I was making like German Pilsner and even hoppier pills today, like kind of the modern Italian pills or hoppy pills adaptation of that style or evolution of that style. I still wouldn't go bonkers with it, but I would go a little bit more sulfate forward. I would go 2-to-1 sulfate on something like a hoppy pills, targeting 100 parts per million of calcium total. But I would lean more on the sulfate. I don't do a lot of West Coast beer, but I would probably still push chloride on it, man. Even if I were, because I would approach the hopping different than I would a hazy beer. And I prefer a softer impression even on my West Coast stuff. So, and I just approach that by, historically, I've just never been a big bittering addition guy. And the first IPA I ever made was a beer called Professor for a brewery called Crankers in Big Rapids, Michigan. And that was the first IPA I ever made. And it was 4 ounces. It was a handful of Magnum at 60 and 15 barrels. So it was nothing. It was just something to break the kettle. And then it was £1.25 pound per barrel in the whirlpool. And that was it. We did modify that over time. When I was working with Andy Gallagher, we added a little bit more, like a 10-minute edition or whatever. But to me, when I softened up West Coast IPA by doing that, you know what I mean? By not having the aggressive 60-minute edition and then throughout the whole thing and really stacking up IBUs. I just wanted a ton of flavor and aroma and just enough bitterness to be balanced in it. That's how I got the softer profile. So, I mean, what most people are doing right now, I don't know. I would guess that most people are still going chloride or going sulfate forward. But yeah, I would say, and this is, I don't hate to give this answer. I think it's the right one. Brew yourself a West Coast and do a legit, 2-to-1, 3-to-1 sulfate to chloride, and then flip it. Do 3-to-1 both ways, and then opposite each time, and see what you prefer. I think you're gonna find something out. So yeah, I would definitely encourage you to do that. And I think it's a great question, Ron. So I appreciate you writing in. All right, everybody, thank you so much for watching. If you feel as if you got any value out of the video, please like and subscribe. There are also other videos that you can watch. They're gonna maybe be over here or over here. Appreciate you watching.